Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself. My name is Onumai Namyua, and my friend, her name is Viparat Jainoi and Kitti Simuang. Today we are going to talk about just listen and read. This topic is about the proposal of Kashen, how this theory of classroom second language learning can be implemented, and that an essential requirement for second language acquisition is the availability of comprehensible input is explored in the instructional setting and have 7 topics such as reading forwards, total physical response, processing instruction, and so on. For me, I'm talking about introduction and comprehension-based instruction. Let's start. This proposal emphasizes providing learner with comprehensible input through listening and reading activities. It is believed that hearing and understanding the target language is sufficient for second language learning. It is based on the assumption that it is not necessary to deal and memorize language forms in order to learn them. It is particularly associated with Kashen's input hypothesis that one essential requirement for second language acquisition is the availability of comprehensible input. This approach is very controversial because it not only says that second language learners need to not drill and practice language, but also that they do not need to speak at all in their language process. Later, the material is graded on the basis of what teachers consider innate to be comprehensible for the learners. Because a given text has shorter sentences, clearer illustrations, is based on a topic that is familiar to the learners. Next, comprehension-based instruction. Learners receive native speaker input from tapes and books, but virtually no interaction with the teacher or other learners. There was no oral practice or interaction in English at all. The results show the learner in the comprehension-based program learn English as well as learner in the regular program. This was true not only for their comprehension skills but also for their speaking skills. However, a follow-up study in grade 8 showed that students who continue in the comprehension-only program were not doing as well as students in a program that included speaking and writing components, teacher feedback, and classroom interaction. And next topic are reading forwards, total physical response, and input FAT by Viparat Jainoi.
Reading forwards, graded readers specially designed for adult ESL learners are increasingly available. These simplify literary classics, biography, romances, and thriller offer interesting and age-appropriate content, while the vocabulary and reading style remain simple. Maris Holst used simplify readers in study of vocabulary development among immigrants who were enrolled in an ESL program in a community center in Montreal, Canada. In addition to the activities of their regular ESL class, students chose simplified readers that were made available in a class library. She concluded that substantial vocabulary growth through reading is possible, but that students must read a great deal to realize those benefits. Thus, reading is a particular valuable source of new vocabulary. Next, total physical response. In total physical response class, students participate in activities in which they hear a series of commands in the target language. They simply listen and show their comprehension by their action but are not required to say anything. The vocabulary structures are carefully graded and organized so that learners deal with material which gradually increase in complexity, and each new lesson builds on the ones used on the one before. This proportion differs from Kachen's input hypothesis. Total physical response research shows that students can develop quite advanced levels of comprehension in the target language without engaging in oral practice. When students begin to speak, they take over the role of the teacher and give commands as well as following them. However, the kind of language students can learn in such an environment is quite limited. This approach gives learners a good start. It allows them to build up a considerable knowledge of the language without feeling the nervousness that often accompanies the attempt to speak the target language. Input flood. Learners will give high-frequency exposure to a particular form in the instructional input at verb placement. They read a series of texts containing the use of this form, but there was no teaching of this form, nor was any other correction given. The results show that exposure to many instances of correct models in the instructional input could help learners add something new to their interlanguage, but not to get rid of an error based on their first language. That is, this approach failed to provide learners with information about what is not possible or not grammatical. And next topic are enhanced input processing, instruction, and interpreting the results by Kitty Muang.
Enhanced inputs. Learners will give the reading process designed to draw their attention to a particular form which was abandoned in the text. This was done through typographical underline, italicized or written in capital letter. Comprehension of the performance of learner who has read the typographically enhanced passage with that of learner who has not shown little difference in their knowledge and use of this form. Perhaps the enhancement was not expensive enough to draw the learner attention to this form. Next, processing instruction. Learner receive explicit explanation about a particular form, object, pronoun, and comprehension-based procession instruction through focused listening and reading activity. Learners were required to pay attention to how the target form were used to convey meaning. The results show that learners who has received this comprehension-based processing instruction achieve higher level performance on both the comprehension tag and the prediction tag. The learner who adjust in predictions practice doing exercise, practice the form. Next, interpreting the research. The research on comprehension-based approach to language, the second language acquisition, show that learners can make considerable progress if they have sufficient exposure to language. They understand that comprehension-based learner may best be seen as an excellent way to begin language and as valuable supplement to other kind of learning. For more advanced learners, comprehension-based of meaningful language in the foundations of language acquisition, activity listening, TPR, and reading for meanings are valuable components of classroom teacher pedagogical practice.
And summary. Comprehension-based programs appear to be beneficial in the development of basic comprehension and communicative performance in the early stage of second language learning. However, comprehension-based instructional approaches may not be sufficient to get learners to continue developing their second language abilities to advanced levels. In particular, these approaches may make it difficult for learners to discover and eliminate patterns already present in the language that are not grammatical in the target language. So, we are agreeing with this because the learner needs to take has shorter sentences, clearer illustrations, are based on a topic that is familiar to the learner for the comprehension and developmental language.
Thank you for your attention.